there's a small chance that I can jump on this bandwagon because I think America has jumped on this bandwagon. I think, the Dallas Cowboys, they play on Thanksgiving, yada, yada, America's team, yada, yada, yada. But right now, I think America's darling sweetheart is the Detroit Lions. I think everybody feels good about this team, what they stand for, what their head coach stands for, the culture that they built. And really, there were so many plays and so many things in this game that really really captured the essence of what they built in this culture. And you talk about Jahmyr Gibbs, the guy they picked 12th overall in that draft, and people said, oh, man, they overdrafted him. That's too high. Absolutely took over this game, made huge plays. Jared Goff, who was thrown away, Mitchell, embraced by this fan base, embraced by this rugged blue collar. He threw away the white collar, Mitchell. He was the first round draft, top overall pick. He threw away that and said, you know what? I'm a blue collar guy. I'm grinding it, getting it from the dirt, from the mud. And they have done that. This offensive line that they've built through both the draft and free agency just freaking started to grind on the Minnesota Vikings. By the end, you just seen him. Just when they pushed Jahmyr Gibbs in for his 4th touchdown, it looked like he was stopped 4 yards short and he was going to go down, but he just kept pushing his legs. And then you got Sam Laporta pushing him. You got the offensive line coming in, pushing him, and he gets to the end zone because they just never stop believing. They never stop grinding. They never stop. Did I just quote Journey? I think I just quoted Journey. Mitchell, don't stop believing. I can't sing. Y'all already know about that. But let's talk about the injuries, because I want to talk about because I know everybody knows about it, but you really don't sit there and list them. I want to list them. Aidan Hutchinson, broken leg, out. Elam McNeil, torn ACL, out. Kyle Pecco, torn pec, out. Marcus Davenport, tricep, out. John Kaminsky, torn MCL, out. Makai Wingo, knee, out. Those are just the D linemen. These are just the D linemen that they're missing. Linebacker Anzalone just came back with a broken forearm, stitches still in his skin, out there with a carbon fiber plate. Said everybody wants to be a dog until you got to do some dog shit. Respect. Gots to respect it. But again, that's a perfect example of what Dan Campbell has built in his culture, in his community. These guys are playing for one another. Who is back there in the defensive backfield? They've got a Meek Robertson to play the slot. They brought Carlton Davis in to be the lockdown defender, to follow the number ones, to really help shore up this secondary. But Meek Robertson said, hey, we're going to play man coverage, which they played 67% of the time. Aaron Glenn played man coverage 67% of the time against one of the most dynamic receiving corps in the National Football League, with one of the top receivers playing in the National Football League right now. Mitchell, with 3 corners out, Meek Robertson said, that's a bet, Mitchell. Took the assignment, shut him down, 3 catches for 54 yards, played incredible football, could have had a couple interceptions. And I can't express how difficult it is to play man coverage 67% of the time. No team plays it 67% of the time over a whole season. Nobody. You can't. It's just impossible. And so Zadarius Smith got a sack. Muhammad got a sack. And then you saw Anzalone just all over the place, whether he's covering TJ Hutchinson or he's putting pressure on, running stunts, running games with the D-line. They just says they are going to do it with whoever shows up. Whoever we have will be good enough. And I'm not saying I'm speaking for the Detroit Lions or that's their slogan, but that's what it seems like it is. Not the next man up. Whoever's up is going to get the job done at a high level. And they have shown that repeatedly, play after play, day after day. And it's cool to see the maturity and evolution of Jameson Williams, running the route tree. You see Amon-Ra St. Brown getting his Pro Bowl recognition, continuing to shine like he has. And they're going against a really good defense. They got 2 Pro Bowlers on the D ends. They got a Pro Bowl corner. They got so many guys winning awards over there in Minnesota. It's well deserved. But this Detroit Lions team just showed them there's levels to this.
It's wild because you're going down to Ford Field and there's so much anxiety rolling through your head. You saw it with the media. You saw it on ESPN. Everyone's taking the Vikings in this game. Everyone's recognizing what Detroit has to go through. And they thought, hey, if this is it, if they're going to have to slip to the 5 seed and go on the road, this might be the end of the Detroit Lions. They stood tall today. Richard, I'm so proud of this franchise right now. But how in the world, like Aaron Glenn, right? Aaron Glenn in this defense, Aaron Glenn deserves so much credit for this win today because, again, the offense was slow. They were sluggish. And ultimately, I mean, Jared Goff turned the ball over within their own 10-yard line, giving the Minnesota Vikings hope before the end of that first half. This defense stood tall early and often and throughout. How do you scheme this up when you're Aaron Glenn playing with a shell defense with a bunch of guys that, like, frankly, didn't anticipate playing on this game with this amount at stake? Richard, I mean, this is huge.
It was a masterclass. And then you, on the flip side, I don't want to keep the Minnesota Vikings out of it because their defense played a really good game. Obviously, after a while, the Detroit Lions wore on them, but they caused multiple interceptions, gave their offense the ball in the red zone, pressured Jared Goff throughout the game. But again, he's shown the ability to overcome the past stereotypes that surrounded his game and surrounded him as a player. And Aaron Glenn, I don't know how they hire people to speak at these coaching clinics or how they decide who's going to be the lead speaker, but I guarantee you there's going to be a number of coaches trying to figure out what room Aaron Glenn is speaking in and how he comes up so they can bring their notebooks out and take notes of how to coach a defense through adversity the way he has, how to continue to motivate your team, how to continue to keep guys prepared, how to continue to scheme it up and to scheme it up so aggressively and trust your secondary the way he did, even though you have young guys or guys who there are very few guys you would trust to say, hey, you're gonna be locked up with Justin Jefferson the entire game. And we're gonna trust you to get that job done. You're gonna hold him to under 60 yards in this game, and we're gonna play man-to-man coverage 60% of the time. Amik Robertson said, "Hey, I grew up with this dude. I know him. I got you. That's a bet." And he did it. And I don't think we really can give him enough credit. And this bye was so important for Detroit because they have to get healthier. And more time that you get off, the more chance you get to get a couple guys back, Mitchell. And I don't know who they'll get back. Like, maybe you get David Montgomery back, which would be huge. Maybe you get a Carlton Davis back, which would be huge. But it also goes to show, hey, all the experience that these guys and all the belief and all the rewarded faith that you showed in the guys that had to play in their absence, that's depth. That's depth, and that shows how great this program is in Detroit is starting. It's really something. They built something special, Mitchell. This isn't a fluke. This isn't a flash in the pants. They were in the NFC Championship last season, and everybody was like, oh, man, it's a feel-good story. It's not a feel-good story anymore. They're the big dogs. And big dogs eat first. And I've heard Green Bay Packers played them multiple times and said they should have won both times, and they had the better team both times. I don't think – I don't see how you justify that. They are one game away from another NFC Championship game, Mitchell. You just got to think about that as a Detroit Lions fan, and they got to come through Ford Field. They got to come in front of the one pride and find a way to get a win, and that's going to be tough.